Let's talk about nutrition for a second through your eyes. I think we all acknowledge that America needs to eat better, but not everyone can afford to go to Whole Foods.
Right.
Carbohydrates are cheap. Processed foods are somewhat, typically cheaper. But how do we help the masses?
This is the most important question because obviously if it's not the easiest and the most accessible choice, it's not going to be sustainable for all Americans, which is what we need. This is why I'm so supportive of some of these systemic changes that are happening. So the Dietary Guidelines for America, like I mentioned, just by changing that and calling out no more ultra-processed foods full-throatedly, which is what they did, this is going to feed into billions and billions of meals per year of changing procurement towards local, organic, whole foods for kids, military, prisons, hospitals, organizations that are getting federal dollars.
We have full-throated questions about Welcome back to Making It Awkward, an independent podcast brought to you by people who never thought they'd be hearing the term full-throated as much as they have been this year. I'm your host, Jessica Wilson, clinical dietitian and author of It's Always Been Ours. You can find me on Instagram at jessicawilson.msrd. You can watch this show on YouTube. You can email the podcast at makingitawkwardpod@gmail.com. You can rate, review, and subscribe to the show. You can join the Patreon for as little as $3 a month and help keep it sustainable. You can also buy merch that says I came, I saw, I made it awkward. Okay. Dr. Casey Means went to Congress last week. On February 28th, 2026, she went before the Senate's Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions to make her case to be the next Surgeon General. Casey Means has been featured on this podcast in the past. We had one episode about her upbringing with brother Callie Means and two on her health tech startup Levels, which provides constant glucose monitoring, a tracking app, and lab tests for hundreds of dollars. During the hearing last week, Casey was asked about vaccines, her medical license, birth control, and her social media sponsors, but were those the questions that needed to be asked? Today, public health dietitians Megan Saichi and Selena Salvin returned to the show to share their thoughts on the hearing, what senators should have asked Casey, and a potentially controversial chat about whether she should be confirmed. Per the current HHS website, the Surgeon General is the nation's doctor and provides Americans with the best scientific information available on how to improve their health and reduce their risk of illness and injury. The Surgeon General brings the best available scientific information to the public by issuing Surgeon General's advisories, calls to action, and reports on critical issues and communicating directly with the public via a number of communication channels. Megan and Selena, welcome back to the show.
Hello. Glad to be back with you two.
Megan, can we start with you and your initial thoughts? Maybe like ground us in where you were when you were watching this hearing and what you were thinking.
I think it was 7 a.m. I was ready for, had my popcorn, ready for the excitement of this hearing. But I was underwhelmed, honestly. I feel like they took it easy on her. They didn't really push. We got a lot of non-committal responses. I think you had mentioned too, and I agree that a lot of questions that weren't asked that would have been helpful to have been asked. Yeah, I was underwhelmed. It wasn't what I was hoping for.
I was on the floor of my garage stretching because I am that age. Side note, joined a kickball team. Oh, at 44, it's something else. So stretching the whole time, which is good. And writing furiously on Post-it notes, random stuff. So something else that struck me was that every senator started with congratulations on your new baby. Mm-hmm. And after that, I was wondering, are they taking it easier on her, Megan, like you just said, because they were having some compassion, pretending to have compassion for a new mom? I don't know. They took a break midway through, I think, to go feed her child. So yeah, it always started with this very warm, welcome. And it was interesting to me. Selena, did you have thoughts?
Yeah, I think they maybe expected her to be a little more unhinged than she is, because they're used to people like RFK. And Casey is very intelligent, very book smart. She can speak very well. She's very practiced at that. And she didn't come across as being as out there as some of the other folks in this movement. So I feel like they were maybe ready to fight her, but then, we have people like Bernie Sanders agreeing with her because, on the surface, it doesn't look that bad.
Right. Yes, he was asking her, trying to get her nailed down on is healthcare a human right after saying we agree on a bunch of things, but also didn't, go after her with the same energy as he did in RFK's hearings. So I was like, is this the like protecting women and not being mean to women, especially new moms of it all? And like, how do we feel about that? So curious about that. She said she wants to return to wholeness in her opening. I was writing that down furiously. And what does that mean? Like those are nice words. I know what those 3 words mean individually, but not in order. Like it was a lot of fluff in the opening. She didn't say much. It wasn't unhinged.
Yeah, it felt like she had a lot of media training and did a lot of practice with how to really say things without really answering the questions or without really taking a stance, really like riding the line. Yeah, it looked like she practiced a lot.
Shared decision making.
She sounds rational in that, like, I don't think that Casey is anti-vaccine. I think she might be anti-hepatitis B vaccine right after a child is born. And total transparency, like I did not vaccinate my kid right away with the hepatitis B vaccine, but that's different. I got her vaccinated later, but that's different than public health policy. And I think what Casey, Callie, and all the like, they don't understand public health policy. And what one of the senators was saying about Hawaii or other places, they think it's all about personal choice. Like, but you can still go into your doctor and you can access that. Well, that is not possible for everyone. We actually need to have some public health policy.
Yes.
I think I find myself frustrated a lot in the lack of understanding of what a recommendation is and what that actually means, and then what shared clinical decision making means, and that we've moved away from these recommendations to transition to the shared clinical decision making as an alternative, because the intention there, my understanding is they want to make sure a conversation is had with a physician and the parent to make that decision together. But a recommendation has always included the same. A recommendation simply allows that vaccine to be covered at no cost to the individual to access the vaccine. It's never been a mandate. So just because something is universally recommended, like the Hep B vaccine, doesn't mean that every kid has to get it. And the physician still is required by ethics, by clinical practice, to have a conversation with the parent or with the individual about the risks and benefits of that vaccine. And then the individual or the parent makes the decision. And so this attempt to sort of shift from a recommendation to shared clinical decision making to try to get that conversation going feels concerning in that if we already have an issue with physicians not doing that, I don't see this tweak resolving it. I do see increased risk of insurance companies potentially moving to a place in which they're not covering these vaccines that aren't recommended anymore because they don't have to. And it feels like we've heard the promise from RFK that vaccines will continue to be available at no cost. But we also heard that when they shifted the COVID-19 vaccine recommendations, that I'm not taking COVID vaccine away from anyone who wants it. Yeah. But what we were seeing in real life was that people could no longer access the vaccine because the recommendations had changed. And so there's these elements of the nuances to the practical implications of these decisions that they're not aware of. And it feels concerning about what Casey has demonstrated, that she feels hesitant to say outwardly that, the MMR vaccine is our best line of defense against the measles virus. And people from the Surgeon General are looking for broad public health advice. And that's not something that Casey demonstrated in the hearing, that she feels comfortable providing broad public health advice, because she relied on these disclaimers of everyone needs to have a conversation, which is the foundation of medical practice. Like, that is how it should always happen. But to hesitate to provide a public health recommendation to receive the MMR vaccine and instead choose to say everyone needs to talk to their doctor is concerning. That she will not reinforce the public health messaging that people need to hear. But I think that goes back to what we were seeing with her trying to ride the fence, ride the line, with not making like a firm statement or taking a firm stance.
Yeah. I feel like the first half or the first hour was fully on vaccines. And a lot of it was, do they cause autism because X, Y, and Z thing. She also, like, to the first person, I think, maybe it's even to Cassidy, she said vaccines save lives. She said that 10 times. And nobody ever followed up with like any question after that. Like, oh, which ones? Or what do you think? Like, should there be a schedule? Or like anything. I was like, what? So you're just going to ask her over and over again about whether she thinks, vaccines cause autism or, whether or not she'd be taking them. Selena, you mentioned the autism concerns.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've flat out said it on here, but parent of an autistic child, and they can all go fuck themselves. I'm sorry. I feel like people don't curse very often on here. And I know Tigress also asked if it's okay. But
she did. It's fine.
Yeah. I'm just tired of that being an acceptable question. Just stop. Just stop asking about that. And then we've talked very clearly before about quote unquote rising autism rates and what's really behind that. And if the data is really showing that, or if we're just finding more people who are autistic or, the like. But I'm just tired of it. The struggles that we go through as a family is the public school system is not, all school systems, not just public school system, are not set up to not crush a child who is autistic. And that's what I want them to focus on. I want them to focus on support. I want them to focus on the fact that you have to wait over a year to get a child certified as disabled in order to be able to get any type of help or support. And all of their policy decisions at this point have made it harder for people to get support, harder for people to be themselves who are autistic. And I really resent that.
I like that you said it's like, we don't need that question. Like it shouldn't even be one anymore. It's a really good point. Did you think that the questions about vaccines went anywhere, or like they got the information that they wanted?
I feel like you could have read Casey's history or read the things that RFK says, and you just don't even need to ask all those questions. Like, let's look at the administration. Let's look at their track record. And Casey is not going to deviate from that. She probably is going to have other priorities, but she's not going to look at her boss and on day one and say that that's not something she's going to support. I mean, at the end of the day, she likes RFK. She likes him. They're buddies.
Definitely.
Yeah. Patty Murray asked specifically about the RSV vaccine. There's also the question about the flu vaccine, and she just couldn't answer them, right? She danced around it. But at the same time, in that conversation with Patty Murray, she said specifically, and I went back and found the quote, "I certainly have absolutely no issue having very frank conversations with anyone in the administration if I believed their statements are misguided in some way or not fully informed." That's not a conversation I would have publicly first. I would have a private, direct conversation with anyone in the administration if I felt that patients are at risk because of their views. I don't see her coming out with a response that conflicts with anyone in the administration, which she failed to be able to do around the flu vaccine for kids, and RFK's comments. And maybe that was because she wanted to talk to RFK first about it. But I think what we need from a Surgeon General is someone who can provide evidence-based public health guidance and not be swayed by the uneducated or intentionally misleading comments of people who aren't qualified to speak on those things in the administration. But I don't have a lot of confidence that she will be able to internally or externally push back and put out information that actually aligns with the evidence. I think it's great that she's not anti-vaccine, but if she's not able to communicate the evidence-based public health measures, then it's essentially the outcome is the same because we're not pushing back against the anti-vaccine rhetoric that's already happening within the administration and that's already started to impact access to vaccines for people who want them.
Yeah, I feel like so much damage has been done, and people continuing to ask those questions over and over again, trying to get her to say something different than has already happened literally for you right now. Just missed so many other opportunities to ask her questions that might solicit information. What I thought was interesting was that somebody just came in like casually wanting to talk about the Hep B birth dose vaccine trial that was supposed to happen in Guinea-Bissau. Like they brought it up and we're going to ask her like a separate follow-up question, and she didn't know about it. So they couldn't even ask their question. Like nobody said you should know about that study. They were like, well, it's a study. I'll submit it, cause she was like, I don't know about it. It was like, that's all.
Do we believe that she doesn't know about that study? Because I can't imagine. And if she's not following things like that, then she's not qualified to be
Surgeon
General. That was huge. That was huge in the news.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of her lines, right? I think that's one of the media training lines that she was given, that I haven't seen that quote, or I haven't seen that study, or I haven't seen that, so I can't speak on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was like her out for some of those questions. And then they didn't, I feel like Cassidy rephrased his flu shot conversation to try to ask, like, not about what RFK said, but like, do you think that there's no evidence that the flu shot reduces risk of severe disease and hospitalization? She couldn't answer that, which is concerning. But I don't remember if they rephrased that for the Hep B, that like, what do you think that it's ethical to withhold hepatitis B vaccine to newborns who are at high risk of contracting the virus? I want to say they did ask her that, but I don't feel like I have a memory of a satisfying answer. And so maybe not.
She kept spinning it as a positive that she hadn't read whatever study they were talking about. That it just wouldn't be scientific for her to possibly comment on that, right? And that is such a cop-out. I mean, I would love it if she went and read all those studies and they brought her back and like actually held her feet to the fire and made her answer these questions.
Mm-hmm. Something else that it was Senator Murphy like submitted for the record or whatever it was the FTC complaint against her for not consistently disclosing that she had received payments from for promoting Wenatal. That's how I pronounce it specifically. And that was another one of her talking points over and over again. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen this, which led to my favorite hot mic moment. I don't feel like we get a lot of those in these hearings, or maybe everybody's just talking so we don't catch them. But Senator Murphy said to the person next to him that she read the complaint, so she's playing dumb into the microphone. So I was like, yeah. So she is, again, just using those talking points over and over again for sure, Selena.
Yeah.
I remember that social media ad, or not ad, whatever we decide it is, when I was researching her.
Is it sponsored?
She was just talking about Wenatal and how she takes them, even though she's not planning to get pregnant or anything like that, but how great they are. And I'm like, this is fishy. Yeah, very weird.
Well, in that conversation, or that line of questioning, wasn't she also repeating that like she's already disinvesting from X, Y, and Z, which was like not what he was talking about. Like she kept giving him an answer to a question he wasn't asking.
Yes.
That was like, maybe she's trying to seem like she's asking the question by talking about something that's sort of similar, but not. And I was like, I don't think, is this a line? Does she not understand what he's asking her? Is she trying to distract, or like, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do, but like, that's not what he was actually talking about.
Yeah, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do is what I think was happening there. I feel like she was trained on like a lot of conflict of interest language. Like she's expecting that to come up, maybe not this FTC complaint. So she only had those talking points for like, I will divest. I'm going to give up all of my stakes in So I feel like she was much ready for that. And then not for somebody to mention perhaps that FTC complaint. Again, with like, am I going to trust her to understand science? Nobody followed up with, hey, you didn't know that the companies you were involved with were, doing X, Y, Z on the side. You didn't look into them. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, if you're in this position, you're going to have to actually look at one or two sources, but you didn't do that here. Like, we're not going to trust you to be a doctor.
I also want to say, as someone who knows way too much about Casey Means, that she used to have some sort of statement on her website about who she's willing to partner with. And now that she's not actively partnering with people for her newsletter, she doesn't have that there anymore, or maybe it's off because of these conflicts of interest. But she very clearly said that she only partners with people that she agrees with, only like quality companies, people who share her ethics. And I'm sure that exists on the archive or the Wayback Machine, and we could find it, but that is conveniently gone now.
Mm-hmm.
She implied research that she didn't do.
Got it.
Or maybe
Other
those questionable companies do align with her values.
Yeah.
And her values are questionable.
And that could have been a question, right? Like, you're clearly putting what they love to say about big food, like profit before people. Like, come on. What did you all think about the levels specifically, as far as like questions that people could have asked her that they just never did, outside of, I would divest? Like, I feel like there were more questions there. I don't know.
I have historically loved Bernie Sanders. I've worked hard for him twice, and I was really disappointed in him not pulling up some of the class things, because at the end of the day, like, Casey Means was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. She has never had to see anything that the rest of us working with human beings or working in public health have had to see. I mean, even in her private practice that she refers to, let's remember that she did $400 pantry cleanouts where she threw away people's food that they shouldn't be eating, and $400 or $600 tours of Whole Foods. So this is not someone that had to work with real people. And I expect people like Bernie Sanders to bring that up. There's a huge disconnect. And I'm so tired of the license conversation. Like, I don't care if she has an active license or not. She had an active license, and that did not educate her on how the other half lives.
Yeah, like a license doesn't preclude her from being underinformed, or like prevent her from providing, I don't know, poor care or like non-nuanced care or what have you, right? Like
care to some people only. Yeah.
I think it makes sense that when we're looking to hire the nation's doctor, that it's a practicing, fully licensed physician. But I don't know that harping on whether her license is active or inactive, or whether she's ever practiced unsupervised or what have you, like, we have bigger problems with her as a candidate than drilling into the semantics, it sounds like. And we heard a little bit of that in the hearing, that like, do you have a license? Yes. Is it active? No. Can you practice unsupervised? No.
Fully agree.
Did we already know all of that? Yes.
Yeah.
Do we bring it up again? No.
It's way too long.
There were other questions that could have been more valuable. I mean, I don't know if they'd go anywhere with the way that she practiced to respond to questions, but still.
Yeah. If this was supposed to like build talking points for their constituents, I don't see how that was helpful. Like, I feel like asking harder questions would have given that constituents would be like more interested in, or back up their senator a bit more by, but going around and around about licensure, not at all. I think with the levels and the pantry clean out, it's easy to say, like, you've only worked with rich people. Do you even know what poor people, middle-class people need? Like, that's the question. Like, ask her that question and see what she says. If she says they only have access to ultra-processed food, like, ask, about something like about that. It could have gone differently. And I was I can't say I'm disappointed in senators, but like, what a miss on that one. Absolutely. I feel like the three of us would have come up with far better questions.
The three of us know way more about her than any of them do. And I noticed how she kept referring back to, I really enjoyed that meeting that we had back with da-da-da. And they were like, oh, charmed, right? So she's been doing the rounds and showing everyone that she's a reasonable human being. But that felt like such a power dynamic, like a power grab to say that at the beginning of everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
And meanwhile, I'm like, they have 2 minutes. I don't need you to waste 30 seconds. Like, moving up to them and saying, it was so lovely to talk with you in that private meeting we had.
And congratulations on your son. Like, We didn't hear, we got that people were happy for you. We didn't need that at all. Real quick about ultra processed foods. Something that she did say was that she'll have a full throated denunciation of processed food. She said that term more than once, full throated. And I laugh especially at it because Lustig also said it in his commercial, like deep throated and full throated. I don't understand. Yeah. Say it with your chest. Who says these things? That I don't know.
We know who says these things.
Who's the singer? Like when you're singing, are you singing from your belly or something, right? Like how are you supposed to sing? So it feels like if it's just like full throated, it's sort of like you're not even using all your power. I don't know.
It's fair. It's fair. We have questions. Full-throated questions. We have full-throated questions about this. So yeah, her denunciation of processed foods I saw yesterday. We're finally supposed to have a definition of ultra-processed foods, as folks may recall. In the dietary guidelines, they talked about highly processed foods, and it didn't have a definition for that. I'm very excited about it. They promised it in the guidelines. Actually, they promised the guidelines in last year. They promised a definition in the guidelines that came out this year. It wasn't in there, and now they're promising it in April. And now is it going to be its own announcement? Like, because it's got to stand alone. Is it going to stand alone now? I don't know. I'm interested.
Well, it'll because like RFK is on a tour to educate everybody on the upside down inverted triangle pyramid situation, right? So maybe it'll be like Mike Tyson will come out, and then RFK will come out, and then they'll do a full-throated ultra-processed foods together.
Maybe the definition will just be clip art. They could just put up all the stuff that they don't like, and it'd be like, you got the idea.
Yeah, that's what happened with that Franklin ad. How Franklin goes to the grocery store. Yeah. If it matches, we'll do a little matching game. Interesting. I'm interested. We're not surprised. Okay. She did say disparities in health are widening. She mentioned chronic stress over medicalization. And I was like, wow, you're able to use the term disparities in this administration. I like that. I don't think maybe we've heard it, but then the solution is always because poor people don't make good choices. It's not because people have choices. So I was like, that's fine. I'll hold on to that word and chronic stress. Thank you. Did you think that she should have been asked more about her stance on birth control being used, or was it prescribed like candy or something like that?
I found that really boring, to be honest. Like, again, there are much better questions to ask than that. I mean, of course, it's an issue that she said that. Of course, she's uninformed, and that's what she said. I think she said it on Tucker Carlson, or maybe a few other places. But it was like as she ramped up to like become more popular in the Maha movement, she started saying things like that. And I think my guess is that what she really thinks about it is something more rational. Like, let's be clear with people about possible blood clots or something. I don't know. Go ahead, Megan. I feel like you were going to say something more interesting.
No, I mean, I agree. I think we got the answer. Like she said, I think it should be widely accessible. I think patients should be having informed consent conversations with their providers. Totally. Yep. All of that stuff. And then, I feel like there were more important questions to ask. I wish they all had a little bit more time, because then I feel like, I think so much of like we're grasping at sound bites from like her influencer period, right? Because that era, whatever, because that is what we have, because she doesn't have like a track record of public health messaging or anything. Like we have her public facing influencer self. And then we have her like private practice work that it was very exclusionary or sort of whatever, limited in who she could work with. So I don't feel like we have a very representative CV to pull from. And so, we're pulling from influencer sound bites, which are like intended to be flashy and like get people reacting. I don't know. This is just like such a weird way to get a job. It just feels very strange. And we talked about like, if it's not Casey, then who? And like, would that be a better or like scarier option? And I don't know, because it's like, the devil you know, the devil you don't, or whatever however the saying goes.
Mhm.
Is it okay that I want them to confirm Casey?
It's totally okay.
Because I think the other people that they would find would be more like Christy Nomish, even more destructive. And I looking back at her whole history of what she's promoted, there's some stuff in there that's not as harmful as what other people would do. And I really think it's just her cluelessness and her class and her lack of experience with real human beings, her lack of knowledge of systems that really gets to me. But again, there's other people who would be predatory.
Yeah.
Like there's no connection for her to the ripple effects of failing social safety nets or food access or, coming off of what we just experienced in Minneapolis is people could not get to their healthcare appointments unless one of their neighbors who was not vulnerable stepped up to drive them. And this happened over and over again in every neighborhood everywhere, and people were not showing up. So we're going to pay for that for decades, right?
Yeah.
And they may say that they don't matter because they're not citizens or whatever. Well, it wasn't just, we know that's bullshit, but it wasn't just them. It was my coworkers who were born here, who were afraid to go out because of the color of their skin. This affected everyone. So you are not going to, they want to separate Maha and like, can't you just let us achieve these things? But as long as she's saying, I'm proud of the administration for doing this, that, and whatever, she is tied to them and she is tied to the things that they've done to us in Minneapolis. And now they're taking away $259 million in Medicaid funding. What is the ripple effect of that? Like that is not going to improve people's health. It's going to hurt it long term. But Operation Metro Surge cost at least $203 million here, and they're cutting $259 million in Medicaid. Like none of this makes sense. The math doesn't make sense. I don't know. Do you all know that like 76,200 people experience food insecurity because of Operation Metro Surge?
I did not know it was that many. No.
Yeah. And I think these are all underestimated. This is just the best, math that Minneapolis could do. Yeah. And I just want to shout out to Sean Sherman, the sous chef, who has called it Operation Racial Purge, which I think is what it really was.
That actually goes back to one of my critiques of Casey's responses. With these dietary guidelines, we're going to increase access to food because of these groundbreaking, like food pyramid, food triangle. We're going to increase access to food. No one asked a follow-up question. Nobody was concerned about nobody asked her, like, what's the percentage of people who are food insecure? No one asked about these basic public health concerns that, all of us have known and have identified. How much coverage did SNAP benefits get? Like, yes. And then the increase in people just not leaving their homes. And how are we going to eat real food when people, can't leave their home when they need? Yes. Yeah. That was my biggest, the biggest miss for me. I have heard that stat a bunch, that the guidelines are going to increase food access to food, and no one ever follows up with how. It's so annoying.
I honestly just looked at them for the first time. I've listened to your episode on them, and that was when we were in the thick of it in Minneapolis. So I didn't get to participate, but I don't see anything in there that's going to change anything. Like there was a reason that the old dietary guidelines were as big as they were, because they actually set out some rules about what had to be served. But I'm not seeing that. And maybe I'm missing it, or maybe it comes later. But I think they're going to go to schools and say, you really shouldn't serve this and you should really serve this. But that's as far as it goes.
Yeah, like what's served in schools, what's served in the military. But, what Trump said, he's lifted 2.4 million people off of SNAP, which is like, but that's not food access. That's you removing 2.4 million people from access to their supplemental funds to help them get enough to eat or closer to enough to eat. And it's just been cut. And then people are kicked off, right? So it's not because people suddenly have more access to food or stable income or more affordable housing or whatever that's made it so they can contribute more of their available funds to food. It's because they've been booted off of a program that they've been relying on for, having enough to eat or getting closer to enough.
Yeah.
I don't, and even in the MAHA report, it's not really, the strategies are really not talking about how we're increasing access to food. All of the policy related actions have been to decrease access to food. And there's like intention to try to create a healthier food supply, quote unquote, but a healthier food supply where there's no shift to people's ability to access food is not doing anyone any good.
The few reasonable ideas that they did have in the strategy report, like the MAHA food boxes. Okay, you're going to send people like fresh, lovely food. They don't act on those things.
Mm-hmm.
Those things get lost. I mean, same thing with, pharma ads. Like Callie has said many times, oh, it could be an executive order tomorrow. Well, you're in power now.
Yeah.
And you don't make these things executive orders. And the guy in charge has shown that he's very capable of writing executive orders. So why aren't we writing them about this thing?
Yeah. Glyphosate was going to be a day one executive order. Its elimination per RFK. And look where we are. Selena, can we go back to you saying that you're not against her confirmation?
Yeah.
Did you say it was because she doesn't have a terrible track record and a bunch of other people do?
I'm afraid of who else he could get.
Yes.
I don't think she's a despicable human being.
Yes.
I don't think she lacks a soul. I think she's clueless.
Yeah.
I don't think she's a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
From what I can witness from looking in and digging into her for way too long, that's what I see. But no, are there other people I would absolutely rather have? Of course. Is she going to do anything significant to make people's health better? Probably not. But she might not damage it in the same ways that other people would.
That's how I feel about it, that she's not going to stand up to anybody in HHS or the administration. I don't think she's actively going to suggest things that would make things worse. Because she believes the vaccine saved life and all of these things. I don't think she's going to come in and destroy things more than they already have been destroyed. Yes. I remember asking Natalie if RFK could be confirmed or should be confirmed. And again, it was like, well, it could be Steve Bannon if he's not confirmed. So like, it could be anyone. If they don't need a medical degree to be HHS secretary, we could just be putting anyone in here. So yeah, it could be better. It could also be a lot worse. It's so wild that we're like, maybe this wellfluencer is like the best option. Megan, I love that you said that this is a wild CV to be available to us. But also I think, Selena, you made a good point. Like, you've been able to dig into Casey because so much of her life has been lived online because of her wellfluencer status, the books that she's written, right? So you have a good idea that she may not be an evil person. Like other doctors, sure, we could get their record on X, Y, or Z thing, but we haven't heard like novels of blog posts about them. So it's something. It's weird.
And we don't know if she has the votes yet, right? Last I heard, she didn't have enough votes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's shifted. Yeah, so it'll be really interesting to see where this ends up going.
When it came to that votes, when I saw it, I did have a visceral nervous reaction, which was so weird. When I was online and scrolling, people were like, call your senators, make sure she's not confirmed. I was like, yes. And then I saw that she might not have the votes. And I was like, oh shit. Like who's coming in? Is it going to be fucking Mark? I don't want Mark to be our Surgeon General. That seems, like even more of a joke. But Selena, what were you going to say earlier?
I believe that she cares about women's health. I just think that she only knows how to care about women of a certain class's health. Mm-hmm. But I would just want to appeal to her. Like the human that is in there, like, you're a mom now, back to the ICE stuff. Can you tolerate that your administration separated families and how would you react to the pain and suffering that I saw and continue to see? Like, how would you react to bringing toys to a kid because he can't stop crying because his dad was abducted? How would that move you as a human being? And that's like one example. How would you react to the mom caring for her disabled son and asking for a blender? Got her a nice blender, got her a Ninja, like all Dr. Casey's kitchen and all of her gadgets, right? Like, do you understand that people don't have the gadgets to like blend food for people who it's beyond me. So I just want Casey to be a human being. I want her to see pain and suffering. I want her to see how she could change that. And I just don't think she's going to. I think she's going to ride on top of all of it and focus on ultra processed foods and all the boring stuff that involves actual policy change that her administration is not willing to go after. There's a lot of policy change. Like, I was thinking about how she was agreeing with banning smartphones in classrooms. But then there's no regulation of social media. A lot of the reason that parents want those cell phones in the classrooms is because of our gun policy in this country. Like, they want to be able to reach their children. It's just like she doesn't connect those things. She is, as one of you said, overeducated and underqualified.
Megan.
Yeah. I mean, when I worked as an EMT during my training, there was a lot of conversations about, like, as an EMT, your knowledge is going to be really wide, but it's going to be really shallow because you've got to be prepared to navigate all of these things to get someone to a place where their knowledge is really deep. And it feels like Casey's knowledge is shallow and narrow in what you've talked about, Selena, with like the application to the vast majority of people in this country, not just to this select few that have all of the resources that they need. How is she going to be tailoring her messaging as the Surgeon General to actually be applicable and helpful for most people and not just, the select few? And I don't think I've seen any demonstration of that in any of her work, whether that's her book or her social media or what have you. I don't think I've seen how she's going to be capable of tailoring campaigns, messaging, whatever, to actually be helpful. And like, if the best we can ask is that she's not more harmful, I think that's really sad and really disappointing and feels like it's not what the Surgeon General should be. And I know it's like soft power. It's not like generally a really broadly influential, but I think there's potential for this to be a really useful position. We haven't had a Surgeon General for a while, a year and whatever. And so is what we're going to see from her, if she gets confirmed, something that feels like, oh, we still don't, because it's not giving us anything new? Is it going to be more harmful? Is it going to be beneficial? I don't know. I think that's yet to be seen, but yeah. I hope that she can use this time, if she is confirmed, to better understand the needs of and rise to the level of Surgeon General that we might hope that she could be. Maybe she can grow into that, but I don't see her as being there now. Like, she doesn't feel like the right fit because we need someone with more experience than she has. But maybe she'll grow into it.
I think, is she the only woman within the HHS corporation right now? Brooke Rollins is there all the time, but she's USDA. I don't think Casey would have released a photo of an AI Mike Tyson tattoo on her face, so that's a plus.
Well, Callie got one, so is that
oh yeah,
there?
Brooke Rollins had one, RFK had one. Look at our bar for America. I really look forward to continuing these conversations and seeing like how low our bar continues to fall when it comes to these things. Never in a million years was I like a wellness influencer is going to be confirmed by the Senate decades after Dr. Oz was hauled in and told that he needed to stop lying to people. And here we are.
I think her experience with people has been educating them, and then they've been able to shift to be, quote unquote, more healthy. And she, because of the population that she worked with, she thinks that she's going to be that for all of the United States. And then again, I did hear over and over again, it is all about education. It's about people don't know. And that's just not it. But she doesn't have the experience to know that. She has the experience to prove that that's correct. So that's what she's operating on.
Mm-hmm. It's weird. It feels, all of it is dangerous. All of it is harmful. It's going to take decades. And it's weird, like, to be having this conversation. And it's weird for this conversation to be so, like, the conversation about Casey to be so important. Like, it's so weird that we started, a lot of this with like, haha, funny. Like, let's just do a regrifting, episodes on these wellness influencers. And here we are. Like, what a wild ride. Important and silly and wild.
Did you all catch her or can you do that?
Yeah.
You catch it?
No, it came with the head tilt every time. Yeah, she was just like, and it was like the mouth. Yes.
Is that active listening?
Like when people would share their either concerns or, about her, she would just, try, the active listening, like,
Yeah, or a sad thing, she would be like, I can't do it. I don't know how to do that. It's too fake.
It's all good. But yes, the active listening, the media training, for sure. Yeah. Okay, friends. I used to say I hope to have you back, and like I really hope that you don't have to come back. But I do look forward, at least for ultra processed foods, to bring you back for that. Unfortunately, I feel like there will be an opportunity before then.
Yeah, we'll see if we hit that April deadline. It seems like each of these deadlines has gotten pushed. So.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
It was great to have both Megan and Selena back on the show. Next week, I'll re-release our month-long experiment using Casey Means Levels CGM last year. That is, unless something like Mike Tyson becoming a government spokesperson happens in the meantime. Until then, friends, don't say full-throated in sentences and make it awkward. I'm Jessica Wilson. You've been listening to Making It Awkward, an independent podcast. You can rate, review, subscribe to it. You can email the show at makingitawkwardpod@gmail.com. The show is edited by fantastic editor Jen Jacobs, who does not yet have a Mike Tyson face tattoo. This is a production of The Bodied Politic and supported by the Legacy of Sacramento Outboard Services.